Hello, it's Thursday, it's 5 o'clock, it's time for another law firm marketing show and tell. And we have almost the usual crowd here. When was the last time we had all 5 people? It's been a little while. So anyway, 4 fits on nicely on the screen. So thank you very much for everyone joining us. Excuse me one moment, I'm just going to have to mic myself because...
Do you want to take over, Rich, and do some introductions?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, while David deals with his fire alarm, although I've also got dogs outside the window who might bark, so Simon might have to pick this one up. Yes, welcome to our legal marketing hour with myself, Rich Dibins, the founder of Staxton Digital, worked in the legal sector over the last 10 years, helping law firms with their digital marketing and social media. We also have the fantastic Simon, who's founder of the Digital 100, Legal 100. Imagine you're founder of that as well. And then we have Charlotte Takács in the bottom as well. David, is the fire alarm finished?
So far it's stopped. It has. There's no smoke and no screaming, so I'm assuming it's just some dinner being cooked.
Do a Joey and Chandler out of Friends. Just put your hand on the floor.
Oh, no, hold on.
There it is again. Simon, did you want to just kind of give an overview of yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Simon Marshall. I am the founder of TBD Marketing Limited. We advise law firms on their marketing strategies. Small firms, we act as a virtual CMO and do loads of things for you, including content marketing, other bits and bobs. And then for large firms, we advise on digital marketing, and we do outsource digital marketing for people as well. So basically, if you work at a law firm, we can work together. That's it, Rich.
Brilliant, thank you. Sorry, the screen goes in and out a little bit there. And Charlotte, yourself?
Hello, everyone. I am the CMO of Novum Learning, which is a micro-learning platform for professionals. And we predominantly work with the legal industry, that is law firms and its supporting ecosystem, if you like. And we bring together all sorts of exciting knowledge to help people run their businesses or firms more successfully.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Charlotte. David, were you?
Oh, wow. Is it my go now?
It's your go now, yeah.
It seems to be out. This is quite nice having somebody else do the introductions. So yeah, hello, I'm David Sayce, and thank you for having me today. Very nice to be joining you all. I am a director with PaperGecko, digital marketing consultant, and I deal with a lot of professional services and B2B firms, helping them improve their digital, whether that be migrations, audits, or the strategic advice to move themselves forward. So, Rich, have you done your introduction? I couldn't hear.
I did partially do my introduction, yes. And then I was waiting for you to kind of like do a Jimmy Hill bit, whatever it is, kind of running out of the room and running back and throwing water on someone, seeing smoke just bellow behind you.
I think we're all sorted.
Like a true professional, the show does go on.
So today, as I say, we're going to be talking about some tools and stuff. And actually, first of all, this is an interesting one. I haven't seen the update on my own LinkedIn profile yet, but I don't know if you've heard about the changes with the profile page. Yeah. So already the creator mode, yeah. And I think this is very interesting. It doesn't seem to have appeared on mine yet, which I'm rather upset about, to be honest. But it's one step up from the audio introductions, and just to embarrass somebody here, I've got one of the audio ones just lined up ready, and we can see what happens. Oh, and by the way, I find out week 11 that it isn't actually Charlotte, it's Lottie. How about that? So you learn something new every day. So we've had this audio introduction, and it's very interesting. I mean, I think Rich and Simon, you've both got this on yours as well, and it is really quite good.
I'm Charlotte Takács, but you might know me as Lottie. If you want to chat about technology or professional services success,
I'm not sure if that's
drop me a message.
It is.
It is great. Well, the next version is, and this is very interesting, where you can click on the image here, and it goes all Harry Potter, and you come alive, and you deliver a 30-second message. And not just that, but also if you are doing a LinkedIn Live webinar such as this, apparently your webinar appears in the main image there as well, which is very interesting. I'm looking forward to having a play with that. And also, what you can notice, is that you can actually add little hashtags just under your name to say what are the topics that you usually talk about.
If you don't talk about those 5 hashtags, if you put in 5 and don't talk about them, you'll see your impressions drop. So only put in the things that you're going to use as your hashtags. And Charlotte's giving brands an edge. You know, she should use that in her post, and if she doesn't, then she'll be penalised as a result of it. My Digital 100 Rich's hashtag Saxon Digital, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, on the company page, yes. You'll be amazed. There's so many companies that don't take advantage of that hashtag little element. Because I look on so many company pages and they're just not complete. And I go, I never knew it existed. But yeah, I do like the creator mode. Mine is turned on. And I was sat on Daniel Disney's LinkedIn. I thought I was sitting on a LinkedIn workshop. It's been a while. And he was referencing some of the emojis on either side of the name. And Simon, myself and you had a discussion about this over LinkedIn a couple of months back. He actually approved of it. And he said, it's absolutely fine. And I was like, I don't think it actually is. Because obviously I referenced Leah Turner, who...
He did a video with her the other day as well. So they know each other.
Yeah, so she obviously legally changed her name to Leah Rainbow Turner, I think it was. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the creator mode, which I've now, mine's got switched on, but I'm yet to record my video for the profile, which is all.
I did my video, but I did it in keeping with the legal industry, and so it's 25 seconds too long. So I've got to cut mine down to 30 seconds instead. I didn't realise that you could do. See, if I could get Charlotte to do the pronunciation, right, that is just so much better than me doing it. I sound like something out of Carry On Camping when I do it.
A number of people were kicked off LinkedIn, though, weren't they? Because they were recording, not their names, but they were recording other stuff.
That's what Charlotte had in hers just then.
Oh, no. No, I don't know. You obviously know Chris Williams, who's on LinkedIn. He recorded something that was a little bit rude, and LinkedIn suddenly removed his profile because they didn't approve the language that was used.
Wow. I was going to say, if I I might make this my next project. I would love almost like a mashup of people trying to pronounce your name, and then at the end you actually tell people how it's meant to be pronounced. Just as you said, Simon, that someone else should do your introduction. I think that would be so much fun. Brilliant. If someone
all was just going Charlotte Takács, and then you go no, and then eventually yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but it's so funny because hands on heart, I sometimes Google names if it's someone from America, from all over the world, because I'm sorry, but I don't necessarily know how to pronounce, certain foreign names. And I always go to Google for help. And there are these brilliant videos on YouTube pronouncing names where 5 different people from different continents just spell out your name.
It's funny with my name. It used to be, people used to struggle with it, but now people just seem to get it right. Majority of the time. It's no fun.
But sorry, before we move on, because I know that we actually have a topic for today, but with the creator mode, I just wanted to say I actually love that in your featured section, or not the featured section, the one below where it talks about your activity, now you don't have your comments, your likes showing up, which you used to do when you commented under someone's post. So now, because you're classified as a creator, it's only things that you post which appear in your top 6, I think.
Oh, interesting.
It's just a quick warning to everyone or anyone watching and those on the call who don't know. If you're going into creator mode, you're going to use it or you're going to lose it as well. right? So if I've got it and I haven't put my video in yet, but you might well get taken backwards a step if you're not careful. Some things like LinkedIn Live gets taken away from people, and it might well happen with creator mode. Unlikely in most cases. Just use at least one element of it as well, but just be wary of it. If you're going to switch it on like that. If you're going to record your video, by the way, to do it, if you've recorded it anyway, you can drop it in on your mobile, but you can't record it from your desktop into the thing. It won't let you. So that's just another thing to remember for people. They do want people to start using it as if they're using Instagram as well. So yeah, just a few thoughts on creator mode.
Very interesting. Cheers for that, Simon. So we have the topic today, and we're going to be talking more about the marketing tools to make everyone's life simpler and gain that fabulous insight. So I'm keen to know who's going to go first with this. Who's got something interesting to share?
I'm happy to jump in.
That sounds good.
I'm gonna. So I've tested and played around with so many social media marketing tools out there. I know Lately is incredible. Lately AI, if you haven't looked at that one, there's Hootsuite, Sprout Social, Buffer, TweetDeck, loads. I'm currently using something called Content Cal. And for the very simplest reason, it isn't a case of me using it because it's easy for me, but it's easy for an approval process for my clients. I basically cut down my approval process on my content for my clients from almost 2 hours to about 20 minutes. And it just worked. And I've been so pleased with how everything works on it and how the scheduling, and you can chop and choose, different calendars, different social media platforms to add in. But the approval process, my clients have just come back to me and gone, this is just easy. We can see the post as a preview. We can click it, accept, thanks, move on. I know other ones do it as well, but this one does it in a way that's so easy. It's almost idiot proof, if I'm allowed to say that. Not calling lawyers idiots, by the way. That is, that's not a personal reference. But if I can save my clients 40 minutes by going through and walking them through the process and then able to review all of these posts. One of my clients actually said to me, how much time are you going to take up of mine each month? And I said, the approval process is less than 30 minutes. And he said, no problem. And as a managing partner, we know they're spinning many plates. So yeah, so for me, it was Content Cal that I'm currently using. And I've even upped to my membership now, or subscription, because I've got more and more clients involved using it. So yes, it's a great, great tool.
You're on mute.
I have little distractions round by my knees. She's got the iPad. She's fine. I know, she just came in this time and said, iPad. And then, so she's just sitting down here watching, I don't know what. And
she's busy on
smirking at
content,
me.
Cal. That's what it is.
Probably. She's probably coding up something better. Who knows? Simon, what have you got for us?
Yeah, I've got quite a few things listed, but I think that's not me. That's the other guy. I think if right at the top of my list, I was trying to choose what would I start with at the top. Would it be Google Analytics or would it be Search Console? And I was really, really struck between the two of them, and I'm going to go for Search Console as my number one. And I think that Search Console, I'm going to select. Charlotte's going to love this because you know what's going on outside there in the world rather than just on your website. And I think if you can start with understanding intent and what people are doing, what people are searching for, it's not a complete picture because, of course, it's only the things that you get surfaced for. But it will tell you, if you spend a bit of time with it, the phrases that do appear against your brand, and obviously by omission, the things that don't appear next to your brand, and then a load of information about whether or not people have actually clicked through to your information. Some of the stuff I'm seeing recently, Rich, I don't know if you've seen this, but got some firms that are getting impressions, 20, 30,000 impressions of things, 0 clicks. And there's several things going on in the background that have caused problems with it as well, that firms are doing some things. There's one service that a lot of firms subscribe to that uses their copy, uses their content, broadcasts it as well. And because they've got a higher domain authority, appears above them in the search rankings. So they get all of the impressions and then they get none of the clicks because the bigger brand takes all of the clicks as well. And I think I'm not going to call them out, but you know who I'm talking about. So there's one service out there that is basically, I think you've got to get rid of it instead in comparison. And Search Console is a great way to look at that information. If you're getting 20, 30,000 impressions on Google and no clicks, there's something wrong with something else that's happening with that set of results, as it were. But I would go for Search Console. And if you don't know what it is, then drop me a line and I'll help you install it, or other people. There you go. David's a good man. If you can search it, you can install it relatively easy on your website. It's free. It'll tell you loads of information, loads of historic information as well. It'll tell you different things about what times of day people are doing things and what they're looking for and where they're coming from and all manner of different things. You're going to have great fun if you don't know it. And David and I have been working on some plug and play stuff to do with Search Console as well. So if you ever got any queries about it, then just drop us a line.
I gotta say, I think Search Console is one of the key tools that I use. It is just so invaluable. It's the closest thing we have to lifting the curtain of Google. And as you say, though, there you quickly can find those issues. I'm working with a couple of people at the moment, and as you say, huge amount of impressions, no clicks, no click-through rate. But also, it's a great way to find those focus areas as well. What are you currently ranking for that's just below that first page or at the bottom of that first page? We generally see the click-through rate bottom of page 1 is about 3%. As you get up, I think position 3 ranks at about 15% click-through rate. So just those small nudges up the page can make a real difference to who's coming through to your website.
I also think the fact it's been around for so long as well, but still people are not aware of it, So, but what was it called prior to Search Console?
Webmaster Tools, and I'll tell you the last 3-4 months. The improvements, the changes, it's now showing details on Core Web Vitals. It gives you some feedback on your server activity from their point of view. It is absolutely invaluable, not just for the rankings, but the health of the website as well.
I'd say a couple of things on that. One is, and you'd be surprised how often this happens, you've got to make sure it's looking at the right asset. Right, so many times people are still reporting as HTTP, not HTTPS. That's the wrong asset, or if it isn't the wrong asset, you've got bigger problems, right? You've got to go and look for the secure one. And if you're showing up loads of stuff for HTTP, that's a bit of a problem. And the other one is, I think, David, that people don't know you can do. It'll tell you all the pages that Google has excluded from its search crawl, and that means they won't rank. Now, if you don't know you've got a red patch there in those pages, you wouldn't know to solve them. So it sounds really obvious. Like we think we know our websites really, really well, and we do when we look at them. And then we go and look at what Search Console knows about our website, and we go, and it's a bit like just taking a different perspective and stepping back for a moment as well and looking at your website again. Anyway,
and it's interesting. It's interesting, as you say there, about the different variations of a website, but you can also tune it in to specific directory areas and just report on those as well. And that can be invaluable as well. The people section, the various sector sections within a website, and just gather the data on those and watch for improvements. It is such a powerful tool. I've had great fun with it. And the other thing is make sure it's integrated, set up with GA as well, Google Analytics. The two can be linked together and they will feed through information. I mean, GA no longer reports on keywords. You've got all that information in Search Console. Right. Charlotte, have you got anything for us?
Yeah, I was going to talk about my favorite little video editing tool, which is Adobe's Premiere Rush, which is the whole concept behind is if you're not a video expert or you're just editing for social media, that it's a very quick, simple little tool which allows you to put in all the animations that you need, and do some very basic editing. And I think especially now that video has become so trendy, both on the business and on the individual level, I think if you, and you know, that's me saying that whilst also acknowledging that there is value and there is fun to unedited video. I think that's completely fine in certain instances. But if you're creating for your business or you want to put something a bit more fancy together, I think Premiere Rush is a really easy to use, simple little tool. And one of the reasons why I like it so much is if you don't have a proper mic, so I use one of these little lapel mics, but if you don't have one of those and for any reason your sound is a little bit unclear or you have background noise, there is a little function which takes off the background noise relatively well. And I think it's playing with that is quite a little handy thing to do if your original video is not top notch.
Is this the... This looks very interesting.
So it's basically a much simpler version of Adobe's, God, I wanted to say it so quickly.
Premiere Pro?
Premiere Pro. So this is like the dummy version of Premiere Pro, which I will put my hands up and proudly say I use a lot because it's just easy and, you know, it does what a quick edit needs to do. Now, maybe I'm stealing the show and I'm adding one more from the Adobe suite, but After Effects is also one of my personal big favorites. Again, if you're not a video expert, I'm not a educated, learned video editor. I'm very much just self-teaching myself all of these stuff, and I think After Effects gives you some brilliant animations. And I know that there are things out there like Canva where you can do some of these, but and again, I use Canva as well, and I think it's a brilliant little thing. But if you want to take a step up and do something a bit more bespoke to your brand, a bit more unique, a bit more different, I still believe in custom design. That's my personal opinion. It never goes out of style.
Those are great, and I think it's interesting the difference between, as you say, Canva is so used with live streamers, webinars. It's a nice quick fix, but there comes a time when you just need something a little bit smarter, and it's worth learning those tools as well. I think that's absolutely fabulous. And After Effects, that's one I haven't dived into. Funny enough, I use the Mac editing software, although bizarrely enough, I was actually trained in one of the premier digital editing softwares 20 years ago. I can't even remember the name of it now. No, this was for video editing. This was one of the first non-linear digital editing. So this was instead of literally cutting tape. One of my first almost careers was camera and video editing.
I think you might be talking at an era in which these two weren't born, Dave.
I know.
Yeah, it just comes to an realization.
I sometimes realize that as I start conversations, and
I understand what you're talking about. These two haven't got a clue.
Quite often I have some smart ass go, "Wow, that's interesting. I wasn't even born then." And yes, it just sort of goes down from there.
I could try and say that, but it's not going to be. I'm not going to pull that off.
So, who else has something that they think might be worth a show?
I think it's your turn.
My turn, right? What can I do? Well, let me just have a look here. I'll tell you what. There's Old Faithful. Now, can anyone guess what I'm going to show?
Can't imagine.
No. So there's this little software package. They've been around for a little while. Yeah, SEMrush. But I do honestly believe. I thought about it. Actually, no, the StreamYard one's in the background, not the SEMrush one. But I do have, of course, the pen handy, so that's something. Yes, I am a paying customer of SEMrush. I also do some of the webinars with them. Great company all round. I think there are options on what you choose, what you go for. There's the likes of Ahrefs, SERPstats. They're all in some ways similar. There's even to some extent Mars, although I haven't used that for some time. I think it's about finding one that you feel comfortable with. For me, I've been using SEMrush for probably about 6 or 7 years now. And it's a great way to get all the details of what's happening. And Simon was talking about Google Search Console. You can pull all this data in Google Search Console, Google Analytics, pull it into the rankings. You can pull in some third-party data as well, such as Majestic for backlinks. Depending on the package, you can then export it out to Data Studio, which is where it gets very exciting. But yeah, I think it's a great, and it's not just a great tool, but they also do have some great webinars as well. So it's a great source of information.
The most important thing to do is to start using it. It's start using something. I mean, it could be SEMrush, it could be one of the others that you've named. But if you're not, why go and spend 30 grand on a website, 40 grand on a website, 100 grand on a website, and then not spend this amount of money? It's like buying an expensive car, not buying any petrol to go with it, right? SEMrush is just the thing that supercharges your site, I think, as well. There are other options, of course, but I would love to see everyone using some form of that and reporting on that regular basis as well.
And I think, with all of these, some of them can be expensive. I think if you went for the business plan with SEMrush, you're talking about $2,300 a year. But it starts off around the 90 odd dollars a month, I think. There's also, as I just showed there's free plans as well. And I would say with any of these, when you're trying them out, try the free plan. But I will say, make sure you make the time for it, because I don't know about the three of you, but the amount of free trials I've been given, and on the final day, I'm still thinking, oh, I haven't started that trial. I mean, literally set aside that full week for yourself, for the team, dive in deep, find out what it can do for you, plug everything into it, and see what works best for you.
How many of us have signed up for the same software's free trial from various email addresses?
Myself.
What are you talking about?
Myself.
No, I've never done that. Just curious.
If you've got a Gmail account, then you can just put a plus symbol after your name and it'll give it a different email address.
Well, you see, it's people like you, because I think there's...
I don't do that, David. I've heard that that's what some people do. Yeah. So I've got, rich.dibins at 2bd.me in case they come calling.
That's the way to do it. I'll tell you that there's one other that I just quickly want to mention, and this is a nice one. And this is Grammarly. For anyone involved with content, it is just something that if you are absolutely appalling at spelling, have no idea of grammar, such as me, can barely speak the English language, then Grammarly is there, and it really, really does help. It just plugs straight in, whether it's mobile device, laptops. I think it plugs directly in with Word as well, and it just keeps track of what you're doing. And it's the other great thing I've actually found is when some of the content writing that I do is US based, some of it is UK, and there's a nice little switch I can flick that converts between the two, which also helps correcting some of my US spelling that I've picked up from previous years, and helps with all that as well. But that's another highly recommended one from me.
I've got one that's I've been using probably now for about 15 years. It's called Follow That Page. Now, I know you can do Google Alerts when anybody puts something out on the internet, but follow that page. You drop your URL in, put your email address in. Anytime that page is updated, and you can set the frequency, it will tell you in kind of with just basic raw text, what's been updated in order of priority. So I use that with my clients to let them know this has just been updated. Kind of giving away a secret here, but I would go to them, this has just been updated on the page, because they will wait for an email or go, I really must go to the Law Gazette page at some point. And I'll go to them, this has just popped up. And they're like, how the hell do you know this so quickly? Because as soon as it's updated, I get the email. So yeah, follow that page, .com. It's free.
Do you use it for your Glastonbury tickets? That's what most people use. That's what most people use.
Oh, really?
When there are micro sales on and they do the sales after sales when things aren't there, that's the best system to use, because at a moment's notice it alerts you, and then you go and log in, and then you know they're on sale.
But it's a great way of just, instead of reading an entire news website, which might, Legal Futures, for example, that has just tons of content on there, it will show you exactly what's been updated at that point. So you can go, right, that's what I want to know about. Click on the link, take you straight through to it.
That's interesting. I mean, I think as well, some of the software I've used in the past around brand monitoring. I mean, of course, the big one is Brandwatch, but that costs an absolute fortune. But there are other alternatives out there,
well,
and also
does it quite cheaply then.
Which is that?
Brand 24 does it quite cheaply.
Oh, yes.
Brand 24 is maybe about 35 quid a month. You can monitor a load of terms. If you're willing to forego the hard copy of magazines and newspapers, you'll get most of the digital updates that way, but it will also give you all the tweets with your brand and stuff as well. If you were, let's say, working in PR, like some of us have to monitor some situations, that's a great way of doing that as well. And you can have a storm alert set up, so that if there's suddenly a massive rise in, hashtag Rich Dibins or whatever it might be, then suddenly you know what's going on. Right? These things happen, Rich. We know
they do.
It's like.
I love it how I am always your example. Always Simon's example.
It's all from love, Rich. You know that, right? And so, I mean, that's one of the storm alerts that I keep an eye out for, obviously, as well. But yeah, that's a really good system as well. Is Brand 24? Go and look at that if you get a chance. If you're a smaller firm and you don't want to pay for a whole load of the media cuttings coming out of the way, pay the licensing agreements, everything come with that, you can just monitor online, and it's much more comprehensive than Google News alerts, because Google obviously has switched those down nowadays, so you just don't get as many of those as you used to. And because it's a paid service, you can define it a bit better and stuff as well. Well worth doing for 30 quid a month.
Oh,
Do you want some others? I've got others. I didn't realise. I've got about 7 listed.
Go on then. What have you got?
Okay, what else on this? Okay, look, I'm going to go slightly differently now. With and most people don't use this. I don't know why. It's called the Precise Forward Planner, right? And it's not cheap, but it's the future, the news tomorrow, and the news for the day after. Right, so they will tell you all the events that are taking place, news events and topics as well, and you pay for a service that basically creeps towards you, and it gets deeper and richer as time goes by with new information. So let's say there was Charlotte, there's a big thing on tomorrow, isn't it, for Nudge Fest, right, so the behavioral science kind of conference taking place tomorrow, that would be something that people would list in there, and it would become available to you, and you might spot that and say, well, I've got several clients who want to be involved or interested in this and that, but you'll know about that 3 or 4 months out, right? So if you want to pin news events, blog posts, hashtag Rich Dibins, whatever you're doing to other events out there, it's a really good way of planning your things. It's also a really good way of making sure that you avoid clashes with other things as well. So if you've got a major infrastructure industry event going on and you're not attending it, and you're launching a big infrastructure industry report, then you don't want to launch on the day when everyone else's heads are turned and something else is going on, right? So it just helps you with those things. I don't think enough of what we do, we're talking about this earlier today, is forward-looking within law firm content marketing planning. And if you want to dip a toe in that, then Precise media forward planning is a really good place to start. Sarah Waite is going to love me for having mentioned her product as well. It used to be called Amiplan years ago, and she merged it into Precise, and I think it's called Kantar nowadays. But it's a really, really good system. Kantar forward media planning. There you go. Probably what it's called. I would show you a screenshot, but it's probably going to give away loads of things about what I look for in terms of terms and things like that as well. So I won't do that. But if for example, you're looking for like employment law, right, and you want to see all the things that are coming down the line, you'd search for that term, and it would tell you this is happening. There's a conference then, but more importantly, like there's an announcement by a minister, or here's some research that someone's done into it, and you can hook into those things for news events, blogging, website stuff, everything. Sorry, Rich, go on.
No, is this free then? This one?
No. It's the other. It's the opposite of free. It makes SEMrush look cheap, right? It's not, and look, it's not as bad as it's not as expensive as the PA Newswire, which I found out recently is, I think that's $500 a month. But if you are serious about PR, that is a very good system. The PA News system, if you haven't used that, that basically tells you everything that's under embargo that's going to be a news story tomorrow, and if you're in PR, you can go and get your comments added to those stories. That PA Newswire goes to all the major news outlets. That is the way to get really good coverage. But if you're going to do it like David says, you've got to make time for these things. That better be part of your job if you're going to do that, right? If it's not, you're going to be wasting a lot of money every year. Have a look at Precise. And get Sarah to show you a demo. She'll quite kindly often set you up for a couple of weeks. By the end of it, someone like David would just be hooked in it, because it'll be like, well, we've got this historic stuff we've always done with our content gap analysis, and now we can look forward and we'll know predictively what's coming next instead. It's really clever.
That sounds great. And I think, it's important to think about this when it is a paid solution. Not just to look at the cost and go, oh my God. Think about the opportunity cost. What is it saving you? How is it going to improve the business? How is it going to make your time easier? And I think that's very important when looking at these and really evaluating the cost of what they are.
Not to mention that, and again, I would imagine that everyone has different practices around these, but just if we were to steal something from law, there is obviously a model whereby you can just incorporate some of your extra costs into the service fees that you charge your clients. So, I think if someone works in the shape and form of an agency, or as a consultant, on a project basis, I think that, you can say, well, these are all the technologies that I use. You are getting the benefit of it. Part of it is being charged back.
Yeah, absolutely. So do we have any more?
I've got loads more.
I know.
You already named one, but we didn't talk about it in any depth.
Do you have any that don't involve Rich Dibins?
Yeah, Data Studio. Although Rich Dibins asked me the other day if I'd show him how to use it. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. All right. Data Studio, I think everyone should be using, really. It's about taking all of those ridiculous reports you've got. In fact, if you've got data in 10 different pots, most of us have, Data Studio is a great way of putting them all together. And more importantly, you can create some recipes, a blended data source. So let's say, like we do with the Digital 100, we say all the Digital 100 firms, that's a pivot. And then in another table, we've got all the Digital 100 firms and how many followers they've got on LinkedIn. And then we've got all the Digital 100 firms and how many emails they sent out about employment law this year, or what the language was that they used in it. And you can actually pivot those two things together and start finding out some really interesting things about how you behave, the values that you demonstrate when you're out there in your language as well. But Data Studio is it's a data visualization tool, and David's about to call it up on screen. There's some free examples that are on screen there that you can use. We've done things like shown DLA Piper's global map of Google reviews for all of its offices, and we put them on a map and then put that on social media. That was quite good fun. And you can see all the various different styles there, but you can develop them yourselves as well. There's loads you can do. You don't actually need to learn how to do a lot of this stuff, what you need to do is either use one of these sources and plug in the sources it's telling you to do, or you need to come to someone like us or another developer and then say, this is what I want to do. And you'll find people out there who will fall all over themselves, David, in my experience, to build you one of these things, because they love doing it all the time. And as marketeers, I think that we have got to take people with us, obviously, and using that dashboard but with some commentary in it is a great way of doing that. You're going, it's not just a dashboard which I've just bought and that's lazy, it's something that I've given some thought to, and then there's some commentary to say, you know, this is us, this is what we need to do, here's a recommendation. And I think that well, I assume that, David, a lot of your reports go out looking like that anyway, but mine do, where they've got those kind of recommendations on for people as well. And we use them for all manner of little reports that we do for people. Hello. Is that one of yours, is it? Is it
no, it isn't. It's just one of the examples. But I think, as you say, I mean, especially if you're just getting started, there's so many examples out there to help you understand how to show the data. One thing I would say is always keep it simple. Don't load up too much on a page. Think about who the end audience is. But, you know, straight away, you can pull in your GA, Google Analytics, Google Search Console straight into there. And it's a great way to send out little snippets of data. And it can be changed by date as well. So for those senior stakeholders, for the sector partners, it's a great way to send that information out. Another interesting thing it has is, of course, the interconnect with Google Sheets. So if you don't have the expensive connectors from various other bits of software, or you have proprietary data, you can also plug that in. And as Simon has said, you can then start blending the data. You can do the calculations within the screen. And this is one of the first things I often set up with clients, because it just gives you that benchmark dashboard to move forward with.
Let me just I'm going to show you something David, you and I were looking at the other day. We've got another video. Can you see that?
Yep.
This is a scatter diagram, just to show you that just because you're good at web doesn't mean you're only good at social. There's no correlation whatsoever. And the firms that come down the bottom here, near the bottom 100, there should be a straight line here. If you're bad at one, you're bad at the other. But David, this is just a really good example that you and I were looking at the other day, wasn't it? Where, you know, we know that Slater and Gordon is up here in the Digital 100. They're number one for website, number two for social. And then I'm not going to name the firms down at the bottom. There's some firms down in this quadrant down at the bottom here as well. But with a scatter diagram, you can show that actually, you know, there's some people here, these firms, who've got a really good social strategy, but a poor web one. And then vice versa over here in these ones here. So yeah, I thought you'd like to see that. I know that David's seen it previously, but I would advocate for people using Data Studio. It's plug and play. It's so simple. And like I say, in my experience, if you find a data person, they'll almost fall over themselves to help you, because they love telling stories through Data Studio.
And I think, you know, if you find yourself, I mean, I know in the past, sort of doing those monthly reports, if you find yourself doing that repetitive data search, this is absolutely ideal. One little trick I have as well, if you're building out a report, and let's say it's going to be going out to senior partners within the business, and it's giving details on different sectors and all the rest of it, and you are left wondering, are they actually reading it? Well, you can actually plug not just Google Analytics into the data, but into the dashboard itself. So you can actually start to see, has anyone read page 3 of this dashboard? And you have your own GA set to see that as well. And that does come in useful sometimes, I will say.
I thought you were just going to say use a Bitly link or something and then record whether or not they know from the link. I can't believe that you've been all.
Oh no! You need a bit of granularity in there.
I flipping love it. I think that's brilliant, and I shall be calling you directly after the call to find out what you're talking about. That's brilliant. I love coming on here because you always learn something. It's brilliant. Thank you.
I'll tell you. Does anyone have anything else? Because I've got one, but it's a bit techy.
I've got a couple that I thought might be useful, and they're probably ones that are going to work better from whilst you're working from home rather than back in the office if you work in a law firm as well. I think that Otter is massively underrated. I know that there are other options out there available as well, but if you are doing Zoom calls, hi Charlotte, if you're doing Zoom calls, then you can plug it into Otter as well, so that it will record your call and actually turn that into a transcribed file with automatically within about 20 minutes of you finishing a video conference. So if you're doing a webinar, that's really, really useful, especially if you've got to tie it up into something that you use on Lately, Rich, you were talking about earlier, where you would take that subtitle code, drop it with the video, and then allow Lately to chop up the video into interesting kind of snippets, and that's done almost automatically. You do have to do a bit of manual correction on the language, of course, but on Otter, another thing you can do, somebody told me a while ago, although you can do it on Teams, I think, as well, if you're recording your call, is just use the word action. When you're going through your meetings, if you say action and then say what the action is that you've got to do after as well, you can actually pick them up in the transcription quite easily, and you've got your action list done for you without having to type it up. I thought it's quite clever.
I like that. That's very good. I mean, it's those simpler ones I think are absolutely fabulous.
I actually had a transcription service as well in my lineup. I use a software called Sonics, which I found to be, very similarly great. I like the way it's priced. So I think, because I looked at Otter and I think the pricing is slightly different. So it depends on how you need these transcriptions. Some people need it on a project basis, some people use it all the time, and I quite like that Sonics is priced based on the number of hours that you use it for. It's priced quite well, so I think it's worth it, and it's a very easy. I like the fact that you can turn it into so many different types of files that half of them I don't even understand what it's for. But yes, as Simon was saying as well, I mean, I use it for video predominantly, but with that saying, if you're doing an interview, for example, and we spoke about repurposing content during our previous sessions, it's a very easy, smart little way to turn your video content into written content, and suddenly you have 5 articles if you want. Now I know that David, and I'm stealing that idea from you, where you said that if you are publishing your video on YouTube, then you should be putting that in the description. Am I getting that correct?
So, I mean, ideally with the video, you would first of all you'd optimize for YouTube. You may have the video on the website. You may transcribe it underneath. You then may use the chunks of that in social media, or take that off into longer form articles on related areas and form a topical cluster.
Yeah. So I think it's good as a meeting reminder as well, but it just makes content production a little bit more easy and a little bit more user friendly, because we know that a lot of people don't like video. Video is popular. I'm a fan of video, but some people don't want to have the sound on, or some people simply don't like to watch stuff. So
I'd always say with video, don't forget the subtitles as well. I know a lot of outlets now will auto subtitle, but it's interesting. I still think a lot of people, especially for those that are in an office or a noisy environment, having those subtitles makes it so much easier to take that information in. So well worth something to have a look at. I've got one. I'm just going to cover this one very quickly. So this is, again, thinking about content. This is internal linking and schema. So this is called InLinks, and it's from Dixon Jones. And if anyone knows Majestic SEO and the backlink software. He was the main marketing person behind there. He was kind of actually the face of Majestic, to be honest. And he's come out with Inlinks. Now, Inlinks is interesting. It helps with the content creation side of things. It will analyze pages, but it also, by the injection of a small JavaScript code, it helps automatically put internal linking through a website. And you can silo this so it only impacts certain areas. And it also has a look at adding in the schema data as well. So helping the search engines better understand what your page is about, whether that's a person, a topic, an organization. And that's something that is very powerful with Google at the moment. And as I say, this is fantastic. I mean, a lot of times I see that internal linking is a real issue with websites, and it's also incredibly time consuming to go through. And this can be a great way to get started, build out your topics, and it actually does the linking for you. So that's an interesting one. I think it starts reasonably cheaply, about $30, $40 a month. And then it goes up from there. And it's great because it has the content briefs on the one side, so it helps you with the content writing. But then, as I say, some of the automation with schema and linking is incredibly powerful with that.
Does it work on a per site basis? Is that how it works?
It is. So you can set it up if you have a number of websites. I think you pay for the you have credits, and it's based on the things that you do there. So you could have 5 websites. They just share the credits on that plan. But it's great. I mean, it gives you an idea of what sort of words you might need to be mentioning, which are more relevant to your topic, which is often forgotten about. And it's a great way to keep track of it. And if you have content departments or people who are specifically looking after content, actually there are similarities between this and the SEMrush content writer as well, how you can share that detail back and forth with those creating the content and the marketing team or the more technical team to have a look at. But it's another one well worth a visit.
Sounds good.
So who else has got something new and interesting?
Well, you mentioned Candy in the chat, if I remember rightly.
Oh, yes.
Candy. And for anybody who doesn't use Candy, it's a reverse lookup IP. I wish somebody would come up with a better kind of understanding of what it is. Other ones out there are Lead Forensics. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the third one that I come across. But Candy, basically you put the code on your website. And if you send out an email or a newsletter, anybody who clicks through from it will track that prospect. There was a lot of chat around it a few years ago around the GDPR element of how is this valid? How are you allowed to do this or put this type of software on your website? But several times I've spoken to the CEO at Candy, and he's assured me they are definitely GDPR compliant. But Good. It's really good to understand how and who is looking at your actual pages. So if Joe Blogs, if you're pitching to, in my case, if I'm pitching to a law firm and I've got Candy running, I'll know if Joe Blogs comes to the website and looks at the pages, and I can set up alerts. But the other side of it is the BDM part, which actually shows the categorization. If they keep returning, keep spending longer on site, it categorizes them as, a hot prospect. Basically, the number, I think it's like 1A means they're incredible. If it's like 100 and Z, then they're not that great. But it gives you a little bit more insight into actually who is looking at your website, rather than just you've got 5,000 people looking at your website, but you have no idea who they are. Obviously data from analytics.
What's the cost?
The cost, they base it on the number of, I know it's on the number of users and the number of impressions, unique impressions your website will receive. But I can't, for the life of me, I remember, here we go, here's their pricing. So starter is, if it's monthly, is $149 plus VAT for up to 1,000 unique visitors. And Tim Langley, there he is on the screen. But this was really useful if you're doing lots of e-shots. I appreciate MailChimp, you can see who the click-throughs are, but if you're doing prospects, or if you want to understand if somebody has opened an email, or what other popular pages people are looking at and spending time on, or if you've pitched to somebody, then they go to that area of your website to look at those types of services. Just gives you that next level of insight into what the client wants, or what the prospective client wants. So that way you can pitch to them exactly what they're looking at. And I use this a lot. And it was almost, they went, how do you know this? We were looking at this only yesterday. But the one thing I always taught people if they ever use Candy was don't phone them up. The moment they've come through to the website, you get the email notification, pick up the phone and phone them up and go, hi, David. Yeah, I noticed you were on our website and you were looking at, these pages. Because that happened to me once. I was looking at a coffee machine. Yeah. Somebody phoned me up within a matter of minutes and went, oh, I noticed you were looking at the DeLonghi Espresso 3000. I went, yes, I was. Stop scaring me, big brother, because I know you've got software that's matching and monitoring what I'm doing. Oh, yes, but we just want you to have a great experience. I was, until you did that. Goodbye. And I hung up. Because nobody wants to be creeped out by that.
That's interesting.
So it's the inside information we get that we can then use to coax out of our clients later down the line.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Very fine line between gathering data and just being creepy. But I've had that myself. Within 10 minutes, a phone call comes through, and it's sort of right, okay. And I remember speaking to some of the partners and telling them, oh yeah, we can see when people have opened up your marketing email that's gone out. We can then say, these are the ones I've opened up. Get in touch, give them a call. And one of them said, what? So down to the minute? So, well, yeah, pretty much. He got quite excited about that, but yeah.
Maybe this is a good topic for one occasion. What's the line between creepy and efficient? What's the borderline,
2 days. 2 days. If I sent out an email and I got the notification that they've opened it, I'd leave it for 2 days, because I know either that day they probably won't read it. They've looked at it, but they won't have read the proposal. The next day they'll probably make some time to read it, and then on day 2 they've shared it with somebody else or a colleague to get some further insight. That's when I then phone them. So I always worked out around about 2 days was the best time for them to contact them once I've sent it out.
But then I think there is also an element of if we are talking about sort of more generic pieces, emails or segmenting, you can segment the behavior of your audience to the dot. I know a couple of companies who will, if I go on the checkout page, or if I go and look at one of their products, within 5 minutes of me leaving that page, I will have an email saying, did you see something you liked?
Yeah.
And you know what, and personalized advertising, some people, does everyone necessarily love that we are using their names? Because, there are stats saying that people do. The nicest thing you can hear is your name, but is it really, or is it a bit creepy?
And I think, one of the best practices is, especially with email marketing, where did you get my data from? At what point did I give you the permission to use it? And really things like that should either be mentioned in the footer of the email, or there should be a link to a preference center, which allows them to take a break from emails, remove themselves from emails, and find out a little bit more about what's going on. You can guess who's just shown up.
The last thing I say really quickly before we finish today is along the lines that Rich was talking about. I think we should quickly flag Proposify, which is a lovely little system. I don't know if any other people have used it. Rich, you obviously have. Proposify scales brilliantly, right? If you're a one-man band, you're starting an agency, you're really professional from day one, or one-woman band, it's a great way of doing so, right? It's very professional, but you can use it, Rich, can't you, for really, really clever things. If someone fills in a form online, you can get a pre-populated proposal out to someone instantaneously, and it can do really clever calculations and things like that back out to them as well. But I really would suggest, if you haven't looked at Proposify yet, go and have a look at it. It's one of my favourite things.
Got built-in e-signatures as well, hasn't it? So
e-signatures, payments, contract
terms,
everything's in there, all in one go. And to Rich's point, it's got all the tracking in there as well. So you know when people really have kind of read the thing, when they haven't, how long they've spent doing it, which areas they've looked at as well. There's analytics there. But yeah, if you haven't had a chance to look at that and you run an agency, go and look at it. It's very, very good value for money.
We use it. We found that using that type of software, it converted more leads quicker, because you'd always have this lag between you've sent a proposal, follow-up, discussion, now you need to sign it. And it was that buyer's remorse. Do they, don't they, kind of on this teetering. But if you give them everything, what do I do next kind of question, click here to sign. And it converted more and more business that way. So otherwise, you've got to print, scan, sign, email, all these steps. But yeah, Proposify was just music to my ears when we started using it.
There's a few out there. I've used a couple in the past, and they talk about making life easier. They are fabulous. They take a little bit of time to set up, to get used to fine tune perhaps, but absolutely fabulous. Love them. Right, well, we're up on the hour. I'll tell you what, there is one thing that I said I would give a shout out, and this is something that we spoke about last week when we spoke about content. And this was, we were talking about what we've seen that was interesting content. And Abel and Amory, we spoke about them in the pre-show last week, but I didn't give them a mention. And I get messages from them every week on LinkedIn saying, look at our new post. And I actually really quite enjoy it. And it's a great piece of content marketing. And I just wanted to just quickly highlight this. It's their 150 years. And it's really quite smart what they've done. They've got a separate website here. And they're talking about various things that have happened over the 150 years. It's interesting, it's entertaining, but also, from what I can gather, the majority of these, the content that you go to on the page also has information relating back to the business itself. There's one here about, I think, the mousetrap. Let's see if it's there.
The Rubik's Cube is Hungarian. I have to make that plug, sorry.
It is. I have one and I still can't do it. But it was interesting. I mean, with this, it was how they work with Rent-A-Kill. And I just thought that whole idea of taking the content and not just making it interesting, entertaining, but also relating it back to the business in an interesting way was absolutely fabulous. And Peter, who's been on the webinar with us, I think a couple of times, he's one of the people that works on this, and I just think it's one of the more interesting pieces of content that I've seen out there.
Why don't we do a patent and trademark attorney special then? Because they seem to be unencumbered by some of the same things. I used to write the chapter about them 20 years ago in the Legal 500. And it always seems to me that they're all pretty relaxed bunch. They're still lawyers and attorneys and whatever as well. But I think we could go and find some content or something to celebrate about that part of the audience as well. Fancy doing that for a special?
That sounds good to me.
Doesn't have to be next week.
Good to get Peter's stance, because
he'll come and do it. I'm sure if we ask him nicely.
Yeah, because he's actually a qualified barrister. So it'd be good to get his stance from a BDM within, because he's worked for a number of law firms. But get his stance on BDM within a law firm, because he does the side of marketing as well. So he'd be very useful to have to speak to.
Let's do it.
I will message him, although he has got a new one at the moment. So yes,
congratulations.
Right. Well, I think that's it for the day. Any last tips from any of you want to mention?
No, but I just want to say thank you for that InLinks one, because it has a great, you can just check your website and then have a quick look. So thank you for that one. Yeah. That was really useful from my perspective.
Before you subscribe to anything, just check to see if people in your organization have got it.
Yeah.
Don't double up. Just extending by one user is normally a lot cheaper than buying it again. So just always double check.
or whether there's something similar running that somebody's forgotten about, because I have worked with companies that have forgotten that they have a in one case 60,000 a year subscription to something which nobody remembered to use.
How many law
Anyway.
firms do that with PPC ads, and they forget the company credit card is linked to an ads campaign that they went, oh, Joanne was running that 2 years ago. Yeah, it's still running.
Yeah.
And great horror stories.
Right then, it's time to head off now. Thank you everyone who has joined us today. We shall be back next Thursday at the same time. If you've joined us on, are you enjoying that, Simon?
What?
The little blips that appear in front of you.
It's fine. I'm relaxed about it.
Can you just lift the blips up a little bit, though, Simon?
I'm gonna actually change them for next time, because they are getting in the way a little bit, and we don't want to cover up Simon's face. So anyway, to see more of Simon, Rich, Charlotte, and myself, and Kat as well, who hopefully will be joining us next week, please tune in same Thursday, 5 o'clock. And until then, we'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.